Welcome to A State of Mind. My name's Paul John Dykes, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Edgar Summertime Jones. Edgar, welcome to A State of Mind Studios. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here, man.
We've had a busy morning, haven't we?
We have, we've been doing a bit of everything today, a little live set earlier, and a bit of DJing, and a lot of chatting.
A lot of chatting.
Yeah.
A lot of drinking of tea and coffee. I think on the acoustic side of things, you played quite a few new numbers.
Yeah, a few, yeah.
Yeah, and they were sounding excellent, can I just say?
Thank you.
They were sounding brilliant. Tell us about your latest upcoming record, Edgar. How's that been going? How's it sounding?
Yeah, it's pretty much soul sided. Sort of showing me love of great soul writers, Holland Dozier Holland, people like that. There's a little bit of blue-eyed stuff on it, but it's quite a straight ahead down one path album this time. I'll be leaving one of the tracks with you when I leave for you to play at a later date. It's this particular one. It is quite soul-y, but it's kind of like Frankie Valli and the Standells having a fight.
It's a good way. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
No, but it's great that you're able to leave that one with us, because we will put that mix out at some stage, Edgar. We've managed today to capture a full acoustic set, which was just magical to be sitting in close quarters with you playing some new songs and some others that I had heard. And obviously there was a wee sound check beforehand. So, we actually probably got about 10 songs out of you today, but we've recorded a set of 8, and they'll be going out on all the social media and on YouTube very, very soon. And I think when people see them, they'll be blown away with the new material, I've got to say. When was the last record out now? It's a few years since the record on Skeleton Key came out.
It is. It's possibly even 3 years, Yeah.
It's incredible that, eh?
3 years since its release, yeah. I
remember going up to... we've seen you live a couple of times, but there was the Skeleton Key tour, and you did. I think there was 3 or 4 bands on the bill, wasn't there? And you put a new Joneses band together.
Yeah, well, I had a little help from the marvelous Peach Fuzz, who've also been helping me out with the new record. Bless them, putting in some great performances. Great bunch of lads there. Liverpool's sort of like new line of behind the scenes troopers, they're playing on Mick Head stuff, and, they played on the Skelly's stuff in the past, and, good futures ahead of them as musicians. They're good with great lads, great to work with.
The thing is though, Edgar, and I know this from speaking to you over a number of years, that you're always willing and you're always trying to assist up and coming bands.
Yeah. I mean, like, wherever I can, I'll always take someone on who needs a bit of nurturing, who's not quite ready, and hopefully they leave ready, I'd like to say I'm like Miles Davis or something, where, you join when you're ready and you leave when you're ready. But, sometimes I've been an absolute bitch about it, But, let's not go into that.
No, absolutely not. These things happen.
You can't help how you feel at the time sometimes,
In the world of music, it's been called a filthy industry and all the rest of it. But I think for the best part, you've been very much, some would say you've been too nice to a lot of people within that industry as well, Edgar, because it can be a grisly business, can't it?
Yeah, it can, I suppose. But, as I say, I've had my moments, you know what I mean? You get lost in yourself from time to time. As long as you realise that's what you've done and back off a little bit, like, and get with the real world, then it's not such a bad thing. It's a learning curve, isn't it?
No, it definitely is. And I mean, when I first became aware of you, it was through the work that you'd done with your band, The Stairs.
Oh, right.
Now, at that time, if we think about back in the, let's say, the late 80s, you coming through yourself, I spoke to you about how you got the band, The Stairs, together.
Yeah.
And, that was at the time, obviously, when you were studying. Was it a tech college? You were at college and
it wasn't quite so flashy. No, we were 2 of us were on. Me and Paul Maguire were on a YTS, and Jed had been on the same YTS previously, and we just met and sort of were hanging out and listening to tunes, and I started writing songs, so it progressed naturally like a band should, Yeah.
What happened with that record is I remember you saying to me that you were trying to create something that was like a cult record, and all these years later, that's exactly what it is. And obviously, we've
careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with the Stairs, I remember sitting in a friend's house, and he had that album, Mexican R&B, and he introduced me to that. But I think what probably had happened is it maybe went kind of above my head at the time, but I learned to appreciate it later on. But we were talking at that time about, Liverpool music was on a bit of a high. If you think about, and we'll come back to Echo and the Bunnymen in a moment, the Pale Fountains, you've mentioned Mick Head, the La's, they broke through and they had a massive hit. And do you think the record industry at that time were maybe looking for another Liverpool band just around about the time that the Stairs were coming through?
Yeah, I think they always want to, but there's always a bit of caution with it. I mean, like, I think what our lot did between us and the Lars and the Reillys and the Fuel was kind of put them off forever.
The Real People being another band that you've mentioned there. Yeah, absolutely. And people who are maybe aware with the Oasis story will be well aware of who the Real People are as well. But I mean, there's just a massive amount of talent come through from Liverpool. But talk to us
as well, man.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's just like a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
I've often asked people why that is. I mean, obviously you've got the heritage, you've got the musical heritage there, but there does seem to be something about Liverpool that you just produce band after band. And there's a big argument if people are from Manchester, they'll say that they're the epicenter of the musical universe, but then obviously you look at what Liverpool's producing, and I guess there's no competition, is there? Or is there?
I don't know, I don't involve myself in that kind of thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, I haven't been known to hang out with a few Mancs in my time,
You have, and we'll talk about the time you spent with Johnny Marr, because obviously you've spent a lot of time with a lot of really successful musicians, and Johnny Marr being one of them. You toured with Paul Weller, and obviously you spent some time in the La's as well. But going back to a conversation I had with you before, there was a real excitement around the La's before they brought out a record. And was there kitchen tapes kicking about? Was there demo tapes kicking about Liverpool at that time?
Yeah, lots and lots of them. I mean, like, that was how I first became aware. It was round at Alan Wills's house when he was still a musician, and in his bare flat with nothing in it except the tape recorder and some Great Wharfdales. And one day he was playing the Lars 4 tracks. I think him and Paul Cabana might have been enlisted for the Lars Mark 17, perhaps.
Just 17, so an early version.
What I mean is like the 17th incarnation of the Lars. Like,
an early incarnation.
Yeah.
But I mean, when a band from that area is obviously breaking through like that, was it Go Disc they were on as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, like, they were a natural choice for us to go to. It was like, I was just like, a silly little kid. I'm only signed to Go Disc because the Lars are on Go Disc.
It's not a bad choice though, to be fair.
Yeah, well, we got there. It was lucky. It was more through Chaz Smythe, who'd become had left Madness, becoming an A&R man. And he really liked the group and signed us to the label. But unfortunately, he'd gone by the time the release occurred. So Madness reformed.
What I loved about, even now when you look back to the singles that were released and the album itself, there was a certain look, even to the record covers and all that kind of thing. There was the sound. I know that, some of the kind of garage rock bands that you were maybe listening to, there was some influences here, but was that a very deliberate thing? I mean, I know that people manufacture bands, but that was just vintage. Everything about the Stairs was vintage. The look of the cover, the sound of the band. Did you have a lot to do with videos, record sleeves, that kind of thing, Edgar?
Videos were very much kind of forced upon you. Your early videos going out, you've got a budget of $1,000 and someone's got to struggle to try and make one for you. That was back in the days when people had spent on videos. You know what I mean? Nowadays people do them for 100, don't they?
Even if they bother doing them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but no, I think we just found, the 80s, we'd just gone through the 80s and everything was looking very cheesy in our heads, and we just, wanted to take things back to basics a little bit, I think.
before you actually released the record, you had the opportunity to go on tour with the Echo and the Bunnyman frontman, Ian McCulloch, who'd left the band, of course, and he was embarking on a solo career. Could you talk us through how you got that opportunity and some of your memories of the tour that you went on?
Oh, the opportunity occurred. Well, I was kind of part-time playing in a friend's band, John McAvoy. He had a great kind of like go-betweensy kind of band. Big fan of them. And he had a band called Timberwolves. And I was playing bass for him, and he got the opportunity to be the rhythm guitarist. And I kind of got put forward as a possibility on the bass. I think it was, I'd done a demo of Flying Machine and Paul Simpson's House to Wild Swans. And that had been played to Ian, and it was like, oh, he seems like a good guy, get him in, give him an audition, you know. And so it was heady times for me, you know, because the Bunnymen to me were like gods, you know what I mean? I always thought, it's a bit of a funny one with Ian, because I always thought it was some mysterious guy who just looked at the moon all the time, but he wasn't.
Sometimes the mystique's better than the reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against Ian McCulloch. I like to think of him looking at the moon as well. But I mean, at that age as well, in that,
he was a fun guy though. I mean, like, I laughed a lot. I spent a lot of my time laughing.
Well, I laughed at the story that you told me about the time that you met Dustin Hoffman.
Oh yeah, we were sitting having a meal in New York or something like that, record company thing, and well, it wasn't. It was actually, I was like, why's Dustin Hoffman at the table? And someone told me that it was actually Leonard Cohen. Yeah.
Because there was a couple of Leonard Cohen songs that Ian covered, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Brilliant. I love that. That's a great story. But again, it's a brilliant introduction to the world of music and touring.
Yeah.
The good, the bad and the ugly, I guess.
Baptism of fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's brilliant apprenticeship, eh? And you come back, and obviously the Stairs is something that you'd already planted the seeds of the Stairs. You've come back, and that's when you were able to obviously continue with the band, put the album together. I mean, when you look back on those days with regards to the Stairs, I felt kind of sorry for the band, because you signed up, was it a 3-album deal originally, Edgar?
Yes, it was, yeah.
And how does that
work? As I say, our key man left the label, and we spent a lot of time kind of nurturing another guy to get into us, be our key man, and we just got him, and he left the label. So at that point, I think we got new management, and they decided the thing to do was to get us off the label, get a check, spend it on an album. But unfortunately, when they made that album, no one wanted to bite. So the band kind of dissolved through a mixture of artistic philanderation and being skint.
Yeah, being skint's always going to do, it's always going to do that as well. But thankfully, the Stairs did reform, and I'm delighted that I went and seen them second time round. I was probably too young first time round. And if anybody's wondering about the Ian Brown mug, we were thinking about putting a wee mask on him earlier on.
Mask on him.
But, we ran out of time. We've had a busy morning. After the band disintegrated, what was your plans at that stage then?
Well, it was quite a gradual thing, and I didn't really have any plans. But luckily, I got the call to join the Lars Mark 36. The
36th incarnation. Yeah.
So I spent a year in London with Lee and the lads, sort of rehearsing up the songs for the new album. Yeah, or not.
Still waiting on that.
Yes, I know. It's a shame. There was some great stuff knocking around, but they were lacking mid-lates. Say when we rehearsed the song, we'd just do verses and choruses, and it'd last 10 minutes. Yeah. And stuff. It wasn't focused. Yeah. Again,
in time, what's happened with that, Edgar, and it's no disrespect.
Even I had more focus than that.
I look back on the Lars with a bit of regret as well, because I think there was real potential to go and make another fantastic album.
Lee's a magician, He is, really is, yeah.
It's a shame that we've only got that one album really to hold. I know there's a lot of demos, and the kitchen tapes again are on YouTube. Yeah. Some fantastic tracks on there, but do you reckon if they were able to pull that together, would have had 2 amazing albums?
Definitely, yeah. There was a strength in the material that kind of put your ear next to a seashell. everybody likes it.
Aye.
You know,
wow.
that was what Lee was capable of when I talk about magic and Lee.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah.
See, when I look at your discography, your output, you're extremely productive. Was it frustrating for you to be working for that period of time without any output?
No, if anything, it got me used to that, you know, because there can be, you know, periods of quiet, you know, in this industry. So it was good training in some ways, you know, seeing a positive of it, you know.
At any point at that stage, were you thinking?
I mean, I kind of loved to have done a gig, but, but I think I've kind of forgotten that frustration as the years have gone on, you know.
Mm-hmm. Were you itching to do some gigs, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, again, a lot of mystique is attached to people who have got a low profile or remain anonymous, especially in this day and age of social media where everybody seems to be attainable at the press of a button. And over time, obviously, Lee's attained that mystique, that element of mystique, to such a degree. People would talk about, you know, it wasn't happy unless it was genuine 1960s dust on amps and all that. These
are things that are said off cuff. He did actually say that, I believe, but you know, it's taken out of context. You know what I mean?
Like it's his gospel.
He was just saying it to annoy someone at the time, basically. You know,
and then it becomes the truth.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever see a second record from Lee?
I don't know. Never say never. Like, yeah, I'd love to hear it.
It would be good actually, just you know, just to hear the songs that he's crafted. Now, at that point, did it enter your mind about a solo career, because that came a wee bit well later, or were you still in that frame of mind that you wanted to put another band together?
Yeah, I did want to put another band together. I didn't see myself as a solo artist until I absolutely had to. You know, there was never any, you know. There was never anything of like, oh, the Stairs will make 4 albums and then I'll make a solo album kind of stuff, you know, going on in my head.
Heard that a few times, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Israelites. The Israelites. I love that because I've heard you saying Israelite a few times since you came up from Liverpool yesterday. So talk to me about putting that band together and what you hoped that they could achieve.
Yeah, well, I'd just left the Lars, so I was very influenced by what they were doing and sort of like lick and stick era James Brown, and I just wanted to do a guitar band that was more about bounce than volume. And you know, some of the experiments worked, and but I kind of ran out of fuel on the writing front a little bit with the Israelites, and as you know, as history is told, kind of everyone left to join the Lars Mark 39.
Where are we now with the incarnations? Or we're ahead up there?
I don't know. I'm just taking these numbers off the top of my head and making sure they're always in sequence.
Exactly. Mark 39. Yeah. Now that must have been frustrating. But again, I look at some of the lineups that you've worked with various other bands as well, Edgar.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I've played with some real choice people over the years, like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the big kids, there was a lot of kind of hope for them to break through. I say break through, you'd already broken through, but as a band, you know, and you look at the lineup there as well, with Heavy Pain.
Howie stands his brother Sean, and Russ suits on as well. Russ has now got the bass chair with Noel, hasn't he? Like, of course. So, it was, you know, I consider myself lucky to have played with those people. Again, I think, you know, what happened towards the end was I was running out of new material, new ideas to keep it going. And, you know, the Zootons thing was starting to happen. And, you know, I saw in Russ and Sean that they were in a similar place that I was when we got the Stairs together, and this was a chance to work with someone their own age and blah de blah. So I didn't really stand in the way of that. You know what I mean? I saw an opportunity that was, you know, I thought was dead right for them. You know, and it turned out to be very right. So
I quite liked. You know, I quite like the Stan's albums as well. That Howie. I think he's bringing a new record.
Yeah, Howie's always been the same age as me. In fact, little footnote, the reason Chaz was in Liverpool when he came to see the Stairs, he was actually up to see Howie's band, the Magic Clock. Right. And it was just by chance that he got to see us on that day as well. I think Howie just popped in the studio to see us for something to do, and we were recording the Weed Bus for the Imaginary label, and you know, things kind of went on from there.
Brilliant. But again, talking about all these names and the bands and the people who are associated with various bands, it goes back to that Liverpool conveyor belt of talent, musical talent, and originality as well. When people speak to you, and I remember watching quite an early Laz interview, and the American interviewer was basically convinced that anybody who gets into a band does so because they're from Liverpool and Liverpool produced the Beatles. But I think, having spoken to you yourself, a lot of the Beatles records in your house went missing at some point, didn't they?
Well, as far as my mum and dad's was concerned, we you know, back in the day when people had record collections in the houses and record players in the front room, you know, they were a first thought rather than an afterthought. The house got burgled and all the records got taken. So, you know, it gave me a different attitude to other people on old music, because it wasn't me mum and dad's music. It was something I was discovering, you know. That may tie in with the question of, you know, why did we go that way, you know, in the stairs with the way we presented everything. Yeah. It was kind of new to me, even though it was 30 years old.
Yeah. I remember the documentary. The documentary, and
still to watch that.
You still not seen that?
I can't watch myself if I'm not singing or something. I find it hard enough then.
And you're sitting in the living room. I think it's Strawberry Fields you're listening to. At that point.
The bootleg.
Yeah. But it's a good. I mean, that documentary. You look at that, and it does look at the real people, yourselves. Shaq. I think Mick Head was in Shaq at that point. There was an incredible moment actually when I was down in Liverpool. Quite a few years ago now, actually, to speak to you, and we're sitting in a place called The Brink.
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking about some of the music of your youth and maybe records you'd pilfered from your big brother, and you mentioned the Pale Fountains, and at that moment, Mick Head walked in.
I know, it's just the kind of thing that happens when we're hanging out all the time, don't it?
And Liverpool came in for a cup of tea. So, you know, there is a moment where obviously you're moved on, and you've got a band, the Joneses, and I think there was a huge amount of potential in that band as well. When you listen back to the album that you produced there, Edgar, was there a period of time where you thought that was going to explode and it was going to take you to the next level?
Yeah, because there was a you know, retro become less of a dirty word around that point, and we did think, well, you know, or we were also brought in to do the backing for Candy Payne's live work as well. And, you know, we thought one way or the other, something's going to break through here, but again, nothing. Yeah.
What a record, though.
Just didn't pull us along with them, you know.
But you left us with a remarkable record. It's a fantastic, it's really a go-to record for me as well. And I know that, you know, soothing music, which we'll speak about as well, gets a lot of the plaudits, and rightly so, because that is just a slab of absolute genius, if I may say so myself. But it seems to be the one that a lot of your peers mention and name drop as well. We've heard a lot of people speaking about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those records that a lot of people wouldn't have mind making, or a record like it, you know what I mean, or having the vision to, you know, to do something like that.
It was bold, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you pulled it off. You pulled it off. Another big thing, I mean, we know that you've worked with Ian McCulloch, and you toured his second solo album?
Well, no, we toured the first one and I played on the second, but I'd kind of gone by the time they were touring the second. Yeah.
And of course, you've worked with Lee and the Laz, various other musicians within your bands as well, but you've worked with other musicians as well, and a few of the choice names, for example, Johnny Marr, we mentioned working with Manx.
With Zach
Starkey
at the time as well.
Now, sounds like a good lineup.
That were great, because we didn't really have any material, so we'd just spend 8 hours a day with the tapes on, jamming. You know, eventually we had to hone it down into something, and Johnny started writing some really interesting stuff, you know, that was very off the time. You know, so I thought, I haven't really done anything off the time. I'll stick around in this and see what's going on. Yeah, it's a shame that record never happened. By the time it came out, I'd gone. I think the guy from Cooler Shaker had came in and took the bass chair.
Right.
But But I was, you know, it was like what I did was like, you know, leaving EastEnders to join Corrie. I left Johnny Marr and joined Paul Weller, you know what I mean?
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about Brookside yesterday, weren't we?
We were,
Trying to remember the theme
pulled
tune.
into your close, yeah.
Oh, memories. You mentioned Paul Weller, and there's a fantastic video. It's still, I think it was released as a DVD actually, but it's still on YouTube.
Yeah.
That brilliant gig at the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it just looked great.
Yeah.
Every member of the band just looked brilliant. You had the orchestra behind you.
Yeah, and on top of that, we also had Robert Kirby on the stage directing the orchestra. What an honour, you know what I mean? Incredible. Yeah.
You know, you've gone to work with Paul. Was it the Hellocentric album you worked on?
I came in for the live work on that album.
Yeah.
Damon had already played on it. Yeah, but he'd kind of reached the point where he'd been relying on the colour scene completely. So he also drafted in a new guitarist, but unfortunately he got really nervous just before the tour, so Steve had to be brought back into the group as a, you know, on a little rescue mission. So that was the lineup that stuck for about a year or so, until he did Daves of Speed, which was only meant to be like 6 or 7 gigs, but they went so well that he took it around the world for a year and a half, and you know, fate happened, and you know, I was no longer in the lineup really. So I carried on doing various things at home. You know,
good experience though, Edgar.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. You know, he's a consummate professional. He cares about what he's doing. He cares about his audience. Great guy. Great guy.
Oh, that's great. It's great to hear. And of course, you have worked with various others. You mentioned Ocean Colour Scene, Sat NTN, Johnny Eccles, of course.
Yeah, doing the Liverpool from Liverpool with love.
Yes, with love.
Yeah.
Now that would, I think that would have been a personal kind of ambition. You know, anybody who's got any kind of musical ambitions, because for me, love is the template for a lot of bands that came thereafter. I mean, you listen to a lot of the 80s and 90s acts who, that's obviously, I mean, that, you know.
One of the things I think that often gets overlooked with love is it's one of those records, one of those off the, you know, beaten track records, which a lot of people find quite early in their off the beaten track journey.
Yeah.
And it does sort of like shape what you're looking for after that. Do you know what I mean? A lot of records I bought, maybe not being completely satisfied with, but I was just wanting another slice of that thing that Forever Changes gave me, you know? Yeah.
I read somewhere, and again, it might be along the same lines as Lee Mavers with his 1960s Dust, that there's a copy of, it's like, you know, if you're in London, wherever you go, within 2 metres there's a rat. But if you go to Liverpool, within 2 metres there's a copy of Forever Changes. I'd like to believe that.
I think they say, what is it, 500 yards? Yeah, every 500 yards there's probably a copy of Forever Changes. On average, I'd probably say that was right.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, average it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We were talking yesterday again about yet another band that you were able to craft, Edgar, and Free Peace, and you were able to, you know, tour Europe with Oasis. It was a final tour, wasn't it? Oasis's final tour.
Yeah. I don't think it was when they started it, but it became that about halfway through. Yeah.
Now, I mean, you're looking at that again, brilliant opportunity, but it was hard graft, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I'm not sure, you know, I think Twisted Wheel were meant to be doing it initially. You know, I'll never know whether they really did have other commitments or whether they just looked at the miles and the fact that they'd be in a van and thought, no. You know, because it was like, you know, it was like a child had drawn on a map of Europe, you know, our routes. You know, some 2-day drives in vans, things like that, while the bigger boys were clocking up the air miles, you know. But, you know, it was a lot of fun, you know what I mean? We had fun on those roads, and, you know, we got to drive through the Alps with prog on really loud, you know. Things like that, you know.
Looking at the map would have been bad enough if you were flying, and then you find out you're in a van.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But the guys were all great, weren't they?
Yeah, we got really well looked after on that tour. Like, I think, you know, they seem to be like genuine fans of what we were up to, because we were on absolute fire at that point. Like that band kind of lost its fire a few months after going home from that tour, so it was good that we had that experience as and when we did, you know. There was a funny incident when we arrived for the last show that we were doing in Vienna. I mean, like, I think we'd clocked up a 2-day drive on the way there, so Oasis had been there the night before, and we'd heard that something was going on and that Liam was in a certain condition, and we, you know, one of these sayings that was always going round, because we were always saying it on stage, was "Free peace is right," and you know, because we were in Europe and it didn't matter. And when we heard there'd been something going on with Liam, you know, being up all night, blah de blah. And then we walked into our dressing room and they spray painted on the wall in massive letters was "Free peace is right." It was like, yeah, kind of, yeah, that's what's been happening then, yeah.
That's brilliant. I mean, you've toured with Weller, you've toured with Ian McCulloch, you've toured with Oasis as a support act, and you've also had a very kind of long-standing relationship with Viper Records in Liverpool, and you've produced a lot of solo material, but one that always, you know, piques my interest is The Masked Marauder. I love that album. I really love that album. Like,
it's an odd one. Yeah. It was kind of a disappointment for me, because I wanted it to be like an ambiguous alter ego record. I didn't want my name on it. But I think it was just a case of me believing in Viper Records more than Viper Records believed in themselves, because Paul didn't really want to put it out without my name on. But I was like, nah, it's all right. You know, you've got to follow him for the label, you know, take my name off it. But I'd rather the record went out with my name on it than not at all. So I relented. Yeah. Again,
though, it would have definitely lent some mystique to the whole thing. People would have been thinking, is that Edgar Jones on that?
Yeah, and I'd have said no at every turn. But unfortunately, I had my name on it, so I couldn't really do that.
It was up for the Mercury Music Prize, was it not?
Everything was up for the Mercury Music Prize if you gave them £200.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Again, it looks good on the cover, doesn't it? That sticker.
Yeah. You pay £200 and get a few free stickers, like.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Another, you're looking
the
at
most expensive stickers of the 90s.
I was fooled. I thought that was just.
Should have just got some Avengers ones and stuck them on myself.
Definitely. But anyone who's maybe watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter who hasn't checked out that particular album, please do so, because you can still buy it on Viper Records, and it's a lost treasure. You know, it's brilliant. It's absolutely superb. But again, you've been very prolific, and what I liked about you're very politically minded. We had a brilliant discussion on the way up from Liverpool, and again, you know, you're in an industry that at this moment in time is in disarray. The whole world's in disarray, but you know, if you're a musician and you're out there performing, the shutters have come down. You know,
absolutely.
And it's very difficult, because looking online, I'm not part of the industry, but I've got a great deal of sympathy for comedians and musicians and people who are working and going out and performing. And I think more needs to be done. More needs to be done to ensure that world remains alive. People are having to go and work in supermarkets and that kind of thing now, Edgar, but venues are going to close down over the next few months if something isn't done.
Yeah, well, as long as you've got Baldy leading Messi head, then nothing's going to happen.
Yep, you're right.
You know, he is quoted as saying, you know, something like, fuck him, basically, you know. Sorry, lad, you'll have to put on that one, won't you?
That's right, it's going to live, it's fine.
Oh, sound cool.
No, but you're absolutely spot on, and it's people's livelihoods. And what does the arts give back to the economy? Millions.
Yeah.
Millions and
absolutely
millions, you
loads,
know? And it's almost as if he's just been forgotten.
Well, I think they're just jealous, because, you know, everyone knows Britain as an art hub and they want it to be known as a tax haven, so they're trying to destroy us.
Yeah. How do you feel about writing politics into your music? Because I think you do it very well.
Thank you. It's hard. I mean, like I was saying earlier, the song Torture, which was given to you, it started off as a political song, but it just ended up, sometimes I just feel like I'm getting a bit sixth form poet, if you know what I mean. And it just it doesn't sit right with me, you know. If it sits right, I'll put it out there, but if it doesn't, I'll rethink the lyric, you know. I did get some good lines from the political thing, but I had to put them into the other one, you know.
You introduced me and others today to some incredible tunes that we'll be putting together as a video. You've done a brilliant DJ set.
Nice one.
The one that stood out for me, and I've forgotten the name of it already, I'm going to have to check it out.
That's right.
Was you name drop?
My Baby Likes the Boogaloo.
What a track.
Yeah, it's a song I've had a long relationship with. First heard it in sort of like pre-liquidation. Labato, guy Mick Laney from Probe and his mate Rob used to do a night there on the Fridays, and it was a big record at that night. And yeah, my first copy of that I got for £2.50, and during Skin Times it built up, you know, as a tune, and I sold it for 50. But when I bought it again, I had to buy it for 70. You know, it's kind of.
So you're £22.50 down on that record.
Yeah, hence the you know, dedicating it to Paul Maguire, because you know, we used to love that record. When
brilliant! It was a fantastic record. When we're looking at your solo career, Edgar, and the last time I seen you live, you were promoting the record you released on Skeleton Key. And you went on a Skeleton Key tour with various bands. The New Joneses were put together. It was sounding fantastic. The artwork was superb. And incredibly, it's been 3 years. So talk to us a wee bit about your new record, but also another release that people might be interested in hearing about in relation to some of your back catalogue.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Well, firstly, the new one I'm working on, it had the working title, What's It Gonna Take to Turn Your Head Around? You know, a very political song that I've written. But I feel like it's kind of the time's gone and past with that record, but with the song. But I still like to call the album that and do one of those mystical things like stick it on a B-side with an album single or something like that. I am trying to think of another title at the moment, but I'm going with that. And as I say, a lot of it's very sort of mid-60s Tamla Motown influence with a couple of diversions, but the diversions aren't very far, you know. And again, as I say, the Peach Fuzz lads have been helping me both play and record it of recent times. We're kind of getting a day in a week on it since lockdowns eased up a little bit. So yeah, as I say, I'll leave a taster track with you.
Oh, brilliant! We'll definitely put that out. We'll definitely put it out. And we were delighted when Cherry Red released a beautiful deluxe version, Mexican R&B. 3 CD special, brilliant. Yeah,
well, they now own my back catalogue thanks to another little tussle with the mortgage company. They kind of bought me back catalogue off me, which helped me out gloriously. I'd like to say thank you for John Reid and Lois Wilson, actually, at that time, for totally saving me ass. This was a year after the Go Fund Yourself, whatever they're called, thing. I got in trouble again, and that kind of got me out of that trouble. So thank you to them. And they're looking at doing an anthology 3 CD release of the Viper years, basically. Super.
I tell you, they've got a job just sticking to 3 CDs. I mean, there's a lot of material there, eh?
Yeah, there is. We managed to whittle it down, though. We've managed to whittle it down. You know, 1 or 2 have gone from soothing music, and a big chunk's gone from Norfolk Fields. But I saw that as an I don't know, bit of a hole in the ground for me, that one. You know, I fell down a hole and had to get myself back up and start writing sensibly again.
Looking forward to it. Probably be next year now, after the whole pandemic issues that we've faced.
It's looking like that, yeah. Because I'm kind of looking forward to doing the sleeve notes for that, like.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Are you doing that?
Having a lot of fun recapping the times and that, you know.
I remember the sleeve notes to the Mass Marauder as well was part of that whole anonymity thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
It's a shame that they let the cat out the bag.
Aye. Oh, well.
There's a few questions coming in, Edgar, so we'll finish off with some fan questions coming through. Kevin Graham, good friend of the show, and Kevin is saying, hi, Edgar.
Hello, Kevin.
The Stairs, any plans to get back on the bus or in the studio?
You know, we'd love to. I've kind of been trying to write new Stairs material, and I think this LP I'm making now, I'll be able to get this soul thing out of my system, and you know, get back listening to the Standells, Chocolate Watch Band, and all that, and you know, just get my head in that space. I found it hard to get my head in that space while I've still got this soul thing going on. So yeah, I'd like to be able to say yes to that question. Hopefully, you know, we can begin in earnest once I've got this thing out the way.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Nina Jones says...
Hello, Nina.
She says that she's missed you on Faceache.
Yeah, I took a few months off. I'm back now, but I'm kind of really... I mean, like, I go on it... Sometimes I go on it too early in the morning and it just spoils my day. So I'm being very careful with how I'm using it, because it's the algorithms are affecting me head, man.
I know.
Yeah,
I've also got my suspicions.
It's built to churn out, churn up. Then I mean, anyone, I'd advise you to have a listen to a talk or maybe read a book by Jared Lanier. The guy was involved in the building of the internet and, you know, the early Silicon Valley companies and stuff. And the guy's a genius, and he also plays this. And sometimes in his talk, they just break up the talks. And he has a jam with a few musicians, and he plays this kind of equivalent, a Far Eastern equivalent of like a slide guitar. And you're just thinking, oh, if Pharaoh Saunders walked in on that, you know, and started gagging in on the sax. So yeah, Nina, you'll love Jared Lanier, lad. Check him out, man.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, someone wants to know, and I mean, Sean Ross is asking about a very specific gig, so let's check your memory here, Edgar.
Oh, dear.
Can you ask if the Stairs played at Roadmeader in Northampton?
Northampton sounds...
Yeah?
Yeah. No, that's not... It's Northampton, not... I remember supporting... Oh, what were they called? Alan Wills's band, with Joe Fear and Paul Cavanagh. Oh, I forgot the name. Top. I remember supporting Top in Northampton. Is he there to reply quickly? Was that the one?
Sean, come back to us if that was the gig. Hopefully he's still watching. And we've also got Declan McConville coming on asking about Paul Weller. What was it like working with the Modfather? I think you've already spoken very positively about Mr. Weller, haven't you?
Yeah. Oh, he was great to work with. I mean, like... he's very generous, giving man. You know, you know, I've been through some poor times when I joined him. I joined the band an absolute mess and kind of left the band looking very dapper. You know, he's great in all kinds of ways. You know, very altruistic chap. The best thing is, like, on stage, he's really alive. You know, when you're up there with him, it's like you got to be careful not to get knocked over. You know, when he goes in one of his spins or something, you're like, whoa! So like, it's like being on stage with an antelope with boxing gloves on.
That's good.
Play guitar.
That's good. But as I say, I think just about everybody, if not everybody who's tuning in, has already watched the gig that I've referred to, but it's still on YouTube, and it's perfect. It's just perfect. Everybody looks great in that on that stage. We've got the Surreal Paul, who is asking a question via Twitter.
Aye.
So who did the better Send in the Clowns, Krusty the Clown or Lores Alexandria? And that's from Paul in Chicago.
That's a tough question. You know, a funny thing about that record that I only realised this year is I've known it for about 10 years now. Yeah, this is the Lores Alexandria version. Krusty's version's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's so sad. It's a moment, you know, it's one of the best moments of The Simpsons for me when you think about it. So I can't answer which is better, but a funny thing was I always, when I heard that record, I always imagined it was from, you know, kind of New York recording, kind of miles ahead, late 50s kind of sound to it. And, you know, that's when I thought it was from. And I got kind of, you know, I'm very curious about songs and songwriters. So I think the thought came to me, I wonder who wrote that song and if they wrote anything else like it. And then, you know, I looked at the history of the song and it was like wrote in 1973, and I was like, oh, so that recording's not from the late 50s then. You know, so just a bit of a moment for myself, really.
Well, I played the guys in the studio today one of your songs, and I had the same moment, and it was Mellow Down Pussycat, right?
Yeah.
Now that has got a vibe to it that it could have been written decades ago. Was it to Johnny Marr's studio that you recorded that in?
No, it was just recorded at home on the 8-track. Yeah, the 8-track Porter studio Johnny Marr had passed to me, and we remixed it. We plugged the desk of the Tascam into a Helios to remix it. I basically put a few faders up, and that was the mix. It just sounded awesome.
It sounds immense.
Desk, like,
I want a whole album sounding like that. That just sounds immense, like, you know.
Yeah, the drums sound like glass. It's great.
Oh, it's brilliant. It was just like almost a standalone track, you know.
Nice one.
My big brother's a drummer, and he's commenting to ask about playing with Steve White. It must have been an experience.
Oh, it was that. It was, you know, rhythm sections can be tight ropes, you know what I mean? That was a moving sidewalk, that one.
Is he still with Bill Wheeler? I think he's left.
The time's just always there with Steve.
Oh, brilliant.
You know, and the stuff he does with that time, you know, because it's wrong to just say that the drummer keeps time. It's what they do with that time, and, you know, and it's just always there no matter what he's doing with it. Incredible.
Brilliant. Yeah. I think this will be the final question because bizarrely enough we've been on live for ages. A good 3/4 of an hour, Edgar. It's been a long day for you.
Yeah, no worries, lad. If they're coming in, I'll...
Pat Hugh 40 from Twitter would like to ask if there's any band that you've seen over the years that you wish you were in, because you've been in a few.
Ooh. I think there's a lot of bands I haven't seen I'd like to be in as well, you know. Oh, I'm really sorry. I'm drawing a blank on that one, you know.
There you go. I think that answers the question, you know.
Yeah.
That answers the question, Edgar. Yeah. Now, you've joined us here from the hotbed of Liverpool. You've come up. You've provided us with an acoustic session this morning that we've had professionally recorded. We're going to be putting that out on YouTube very, very shortly. We'll be doing the same to the remarkable DJ set that you played just before. And we've had an exclusive Q&A with you, Edgar. So all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for taking the time out to come up and join us here at State of Mind.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Absolute. You know, with last night coming in here with the Soul Boys and that, doing their thing and that, you know, and it's just really, I just know with yourself, I'm always in good hands, Paul. Thank you very much for involving me again.
Anytime. It's been a pleasure.